Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live. We're in the studio. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news, all the latest transfer news, because that is what is happening. It's all about transfers today. And it says on the thumbnail, deadline day. We've been a bit cheeky, a bit shameless, because it's technically deadline day, but it isn't really, because it's only a week in it because of the Club World Cup. But we're having it. We're having that deadline day. We don't care. We're shameless. Get involved and let us know what you think. We want to talk about Viktor Gyokeres because that's the main story. Great to see so many people in the chat already. Usual suspects in here. Real recognises Real. Phobo Sakoman. Greg, Tyler Ward, Jacoya Trot, BMW Racing 1974. Sean says, get the likes in early for the lads. Great shout there, Sean. Make sure you are doing that. Kimani W says, fresh off a bender and get some live Paddock. Loving that. I don't know what part of the world you're in. If you're fresh from a bender, you've been up all night, or if wherever you are, it might be in the middle of the night. Peekaboo says, any news on 115 FC? It's all gone quiet on it on that. We'll get to that later. Let's talk about Viktor Gyokeres then, because that's the main story doing the rounds. Yesterday, we had the story in our news that it was that United had made contact, that we'd spoken to Viktor Gyokeres. That was, I think, Fabrizio Romano, and one or two others had it as well. Now there's this story by Sam Brooks in the Mail. I think this is from yesterday evening, I want to say. Late last night, it was sort of 25 past 11. I think he published this one, or they published this one, I should say. It says, Viktor Gyokeres is furious with Sporting Lisbon for performing U-turn over his 84 million quid release clause as Man United target pushes for summer exit. Viktor Gyokeres has been heavily linked, sorry, just go down a little bit, I was just reading that bit, has been heavily linked with the move to United. He's reportedly unhappy with how Sporting are handling the potential transfer. And you see there the rest of it. It says Gyokeres is reportedly furious with his current club, Sporting Lisbon, over their handling of the exit. The Swedish striker has €100 million, which is an 84 million quid release clause in his Sporting contract, but he's understood to have reached a gentleman's agreement with the club at the start of the season over a reduced asking price. Gyokeres was promised that he could leave Sporting this summer for 51 million quid, 60 million euros, plus 8 million quid, 10 million euros in add-ons to take the overall transfer fee down to 59 million. Just scroll up, let's see what else he's got to say here. We'll keep going. Sorry, go back down, that's it. However, according to Portuguese outlet Record, Sporting's board are now seeking in the region of 80 million euros, 67 million quid, before allowing Gyokeres to move on. The 27-year-old is believed to be livid with Sporting's U-turn and feels they have failed to deliver on their promise to him. So he's unhappy about that because he's obviously feeling that potentially he's going to get priced out of a move away. Now, look, gentlemen's agreements are all well and good, but how sort of reliable are they? Can you say, well, it's a gentleman's agreement, that's it, we're going to stick to it? It's not contractually obligated, are you? You're not contractually obligated when you've got a gentleman's agreement. Now, you want to stick to that, because I always think you've got to remember with clubs, there's a PR element that goes with this. I used to talk about this a lot with Dortmund. Dortmund's sort of MO would be they'd buy young players, the likes of Jadon Sancho, the likes of Jude Bellingham, the likes of Erling Haaland. They'd have young players, and after 2 or 3 seasons, they'd let them move on. They'd move them on for profit, for big money usually. If they ever fell out with those players, or if it was looked like they weren't letting players move on, then that sends a message to other players that maybe you don't want to go to Dortmund as a stepping stone, because maybe after you've had a couple of good seasons, they won't move you on. So Dortmund had that sort of reputation that you give us 2 or 3 seasons and then we'll move you on. And it works. It works for them. Players are happy to go there. Players know that if you go to Dortmund, you'll play, you'll get 2 or 3 years, and then you'll get a move, as long as you do well, which players often back themselves. So we've seen it with all the players I've just mentioned. And I feel like there might be a little element of this where they don't want to get into a sort of PR disaster or a spat, a public spat with someone like Gyokeres, because if it looks like, Sporting, you can't trust them. They agreed with Viktor Gyokeres that they were going to do a let him move. They didn't. Then it might put other players off. It might put people off from dealing with them. They don't have to, though. They don't have to let him move for less than what is in his buyout clause. It'd be interesting to see how this pans out. He's obviously hankering for a move. He's obviously willing, from what we gather, he's willing to come to Manchester United. United, you'd imagine, would want him. Ruben Amorim knows him. He scored a load of goals. and he's available for a fee which I said yesterday, I said at first, I almost said it's a bag, and then I sort of corrected myself. I said it's a decent fee. If it's around 60 million, I think that's decent. When you get into 70 million, I think that's a little bit excessive. You have to have a limit. And I think Gyokeres is a very talented young man, scored a lot of goals, but he's 27, so he hasn't got a lot of sell-on value if you did want to try and sell him on. And yes, he scored a lot of goals, but a lot of them have come in the Portuguese league, which, no disrespect to the Portuguese league, it's a good league. It isn't. He's not scored 30 goals in the Premier League or whatever. So I understand why there might be some reservations there over the price. Why United might look at it and go, look, if you can get him for 50 odd million quid, that works. If, however, you're pushing towards 70 or past 70, that doesn't work. And you can understand why Gyokeres would be frustrated. This is the time for him to make his move. This is the time for him now to get his big money move. This contract that he gets when he signs with someone like Manchester United or anywhere else, that's probably going to be the one that sees his wages bump up, sees him have a nice signing on fee, and sees him get a move to a club, a big club. Another year at Sporting, it's probably unnecessary for him and his career. That's probably the way he's looking at it. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you think he's right to be miffed? Do you think this gentleman's agreement means anything? Do you think the club should stick to that gentleman's agreement? Or do you think, you know what? It's a dog-eat-dog world. If that's what, if in his contract it says he's going to go for 60 odd million quid or whatever it is, then that's what it's got to be. Let me know what you think. Someone's saying about the mic. No, someone else is saying it's fine. So I think you should be able to hear me loud and clear. Someone said, have you got any issues with the audio? Someone's saying the audio is moving mad. Just refresh. Yeah, let us know. I mean, I think everything should be sorted on that. JB says, I still have reservations about Gyokeres. Why is no one else coming in for him? Some of the clips I've seen, the defending is very suspect for some of his goals. Or is it just me? There's a few people who've got reservations, and I get that. I understand that there's reservations, because I was speaking about this on the Paddock podcast the other day. I think, was it the Paddock podcast? It might have been the Brew, actually, on Friday. Sorry, forgive me, it was the Brew. And I think Ronaldo Brown had mentioned it, one or two others have mentioned it. A lot of his goals this season, or the season just gone, have come against the bottom teams in the Portuguese league. So I understand why some people might look at it and go, well, he's scoring loads of goals, but some of them are coming against the bottom teams in the Portuguese league. He hasn't been as prolific against the top teams. I think the previous season he did score quite a few goals against the top teams. Also, let's not forget, he has scored against good teams. He scored against good teams the season just gone. He scored a hat-trick against Manchester City. I know Manchester City were going through a bit of a time when he played against them, but it's still Manchester City. It was still the reigning Premier League champions. Like, there's no reason to sort of just dismiss that completely. So I don't think you can ignore the amount of goals he scored and just say, well, they're all against poor teams. He scored so many goals, Gyokeres, that there's definitely a play there. That the question is, can it transfer to the Premier League? Can he score anywhere near the amount of goals? I don't think he's going to score. Let's just have a quick look. He scored 39 goals in the Portuguese league. He ain't going to score 39 Premier League goals. We all know that if he comes into the Premier League. But can he score half that many? If he was to score 19, 20 Premier League goals, we'd be buzzing, really, wouldn't we? I mean, you could argue, even if he scores like 15, you'd probably be happy with that. Let me know what you think. Do you think he's capable of that? Do you think it's a good move for Manchester United? And if not, if you don't like the Viktor Gyokeres move, if you don't think we should be going for him, if you don't think he's good enough, and you're not alone on that, by the way. I think it was JB said it, McColla's said it, Ronnie's had some reservations as well. I understand that argument. I get it. There's some question marks there about bringing in a player who he has played in English football, but he's never played in Premier League. He played at Coventry, obviously. Is it another risk? I think Gyokeres would work at United. I think he's scored enough goals. Let me know what you think. Santa Notch is in the chat, I think. Sorry, I've just missed him. Steve M says, we've become used to players hitting their peak early in recent years that we forget that Gyokeres has developed. The players usually hitting their peak is in his mid to late 20s. It's a good point now, because years ago, we were always sort of, not patient, but we were always aware of the fact that players in their mid-20s get to another level, and in their later 20s tend to get to another level. You look at someone like, one of my favourite players is Roy Keane. Roy Keane, when he was like 23, 24, I thought he's phenomenal. Can't get any better. Then as he got into his late 20s, he did. He got even better. You're like, Jesus, this is unreal. He's reached another level. Strikers can do that as well. The obvious sort of example would be someone like Jamie Vardy. I think in his early 20s, he was playing practically non-league. I think it was non-league. Ian Wright was someone else who was in his early 20s, wasn't really doing a lot. I think he was just sort of broke in at the Crystal Palace team in his early 20s. Sort of late bloomer. It happens. I think we're too sort of expecting that every player is going to be the finished article by the time they're 23, 24. It's not always the case. Rahil Amin says, I'll just leave this in here. Bruno and Ronaldo. Is that an argument as well for the fact that players in their mid-20s kick on? I remember Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, when he was at United in his teens. He had a very, very good debut against Bolton, but then he was expelled for a couple of years when people thought he weren't good enough for the Premier League. People were arguing. It's true. Cristiano Ronaldo was a one-trick pony, one step over too many, can't handle the physicality, can't handle the pace of it, isn't cut out for it. Maybe he needs to go on loan. Maybe we need to get rid of him. That was an argument that was going on, trust me, in the early noughties, like 2003, 2004 when he first arrived. And he did all right, didn't he? Sort of carved out a bit of a career, I guess you could say. Did a few bits at United along the way as well. Yeah, so you can't dismiss players at that age. I'm not saying that means that Gyokeres is the answer. I'm just saying that just because someone at 24 was playing for Coventry doesn't mean that you go, well, he ain't good enough. Let me know what you think. Justin Beaver says, JU Daily News covers everything without wasting time, straight to the point and no filler. Thank you. BMW Racing 1974 says, I'm one of them people that thought Ronaldo wasn't going to hack it. You weren't alone. Like, people might try and rewrite history and say, you know what, I never doubted Ronaldo. A lot of people did, and this was before the days of Twitter and Facebook and all that, but there was a lot of people when you chatted to them on forums or in, fanzines or whatever, were going, this Ronaldo kid, he's not all that. Rory Miles, says, imagine a reservation against signing someone because they score goals. Plenty of players in the Portuguese league that are not getting these numbers. Great point. John Davis, 91, says, Ollie Watkins is a good example. Another one, yeah. Jamie Vardy, 2. Gyokeres is an upgrade to Højlund. Who else do we get? No guarantee. Osimhen could do it in the Prem too. There's always going to be question marks. There's always going to be doubts. I think every single player that you link with, that Manchester United are linked with, people are going to have reservations. There's nothing wrong with that. It's healthy to question signings. It's healthy to say, well, I've looked at him and I'm not convinced. I don't think we should all just sit here and go, well, that's it. He's going to be the answer to our problems. Give us your honest opinion. I like Gyokeres. I think he would be a good signing for Manchester United. I think he could score enough goals to make him a good signing for Manchester United. I don't think he's going to put up the numbers that he put up in Portugal, but I think that's okay. He's just scored 54 goals in all competitions. I think he's like 60 or something when you count his goals for his country. So he's obviously scoring like just ridiculous, like peak Lionel Messi, peak Cristiano Ronaldo numbers, obviously at a lower level. So I get we're not going to see that if he comes to the Premier League, but will we see enough? Let me know what you think. Morning Jay says, Alex Bagley. Baggers, the Housewives' favourite in the chat was, I shouldn't say that, he's engaged now. Let's talk about Donnarumma. I had this story yesterday. We had a story yesterday. And I basically said, there was a story linking Donnarumma with Manchester United. And I used the saying that's always doing the rounds on Twitter of, of all the things that didn't happen, this didn't happen the most. And I said, of all the stories that aren't going to happen, this isn't going to happen the most. I didn't think for 1 second Donnarumma was going to come to Manchester United. I said I think this is probably just to help him get a move, a bit of mischief making maybe by his agent or just some journalists who are bored. Probably going to help him get another move or another deal, at Paris Saint-Germain. Our mate Florian Plettenberg has gone with that story, saying Gianluigi Donnarumma is leaning towards signing a contract extension with Paris Saint-Germain beyond 2026. Talks have already begun. I don't think any of us realistically believed we were going to get Donnarumma. I'd have him. I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, and I think, no disrespect, but let's be honest, he's a big upgrade on Andre Onana. But is he going to leave Paris Saint-Germain when he's just won a Champions League and come to Manchester United? Especially when Manchester United, from as far as we gather, aren't offering silly money on wages anymore. So it's not like we can go to Donnarumma, come at United and we'll give you £500,000 a week. So, look, I will always argue that moving from Paris Saint-Germain in terms of the size of the club to Manchester United is a step up. Manchester United are a bigger club than PSG, but he's just won a Champions League. He's enjoying his football there. He's winning trophies there. He's part of a phenomenal team. I don't see him coming to a club that have just finished 15th. I just don't, and it seems that story isn't happening. Just on another story as well that was doing the rounds yesterday, and it sort of leads into this story today, and it ties in with Manchester United. Thomas Frank is going to Spurs. I think we've had the tweet from Fabrizio Romano. Thomas Frank will become new Spurs head coach. Here we go. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jay, why do we care? You know why we care about this, because it ties in to the Mbumo rumours. Now, bear with me. Darren Lewis on Sunday ran the story that Brian Mbumo, I've just said his name differently twice. I keep doing that. Brian Mbumo could end up going to Spurs if Thomas Frank becomes a Spurs manager and can convince him to join him there. that could happen. That was like a way of it happening. Like you say, okay, if Frank goes to Spurs, he says to Spurs board, look, I want Brian Mbeumo. He's my player. I've had him at Brentford. He's been banging in loads of goals for me. Spurs have obviously got Champions League football. He speaks to the player. Can he make it happen? I get it. I understand it as an argument. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening at all. Because, no, that sounds a bit emphatic at all. I just don't think it will. Brian Mbeumo's made it clear he wants to go to Manchester United. Spurs will link with him anyway. And there's probably been conversations around that with his agent and stuff. Like, you could go to Spurs, regardless of whether Thomas Frank's there. And he's not fancied it. He's fancied going to Manchester United. So I still think that move happens. I think we can get Brian Mbeumo. I think we probably will. The only sort of issue is if Thomas Frank can get on the phone with him or whatever and proper, lobby him and go, look, I'm here now. Let's do this. Get the old team back together. But even when it comes to the fee as well, and the wages and the numbers, I don't think they quite add up. I think that United are willing to pay a little bit more than Spurs are willing to do, both in terms of a fee and in transfer. Now, we're still waiting, as far as I'm aware, for that second Manchester United bid. I think the first bid was around 44 million quid, plus 10 million in add-ons. But if that second bid comes in, it might be a take it or leave it bid. That is where it could get a little bit tricky if Brentford say no and he's willing to go to Spurs. If Brentford feel they've got a backup option with Spurs who may be willing to pay roughly the same as Manchester United or maybe go a little bit further, although I'm still doubtful about that, then maybe something happens there, but I can't see it. Greg says Mbeumo is what? 80% likely, needs to get 90% this week. Kevin Aitchen says Ten Hag approved players shouldn't sign for their old manager. Come to United, Brian. Ian McDonald says, yeah, we only got De Ligt because of Ten Hag. Pull, lol, don't be daft. Matthew Baker says he's on 45k a week and reports say he's looking at a 3 times pay increase. I'd quit my career to clean toilets 3 times my wage, as most people would. If he gets a 3 times pay increase, I don't think that's that bad. I think, we keep hearing about these wages, don't we? People are going on about Mateus Cunha's wage, and you've got to be honest about where players are in a minute. You've got to be honest about where Manchester United players are. Around 170, 180k a week for a new signing who's in his mid-20s, I think is about right. And if that's what he's going to be on, if he's going to be on 3 times 45k, which is even less than that, and what's that, about 145k, 150k, whatever, a little bit less, sorry. Well, it's 135k is actually, to do the maths properly. Then I don't have a problem with that. I think that's about right. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button. Make sure as well, while we're on it, you're subscribing to the channel, right? We're on 799,300 subscribers. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. We're almost there. Can we put a link to the subs in the chat, please? We'll put a link in the chat. Go and click on it. We'll make it the pinned link in the chat. Go and click on it and let's have some subscribers. Let's subscribe to the channel. If you're watching, not subscribe, please subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 800,000. We're almost there. Right, let's talk about a goalkeeping link we've got. This is the Manchester United news. New goalkeeper interest. Great. Who is it? There you go. United are reportedly eyeing a potential change in goal. Despite Andre Onana's intent to stay and fight for his place, the Mirror claimed last week that the club could be open to offers for the Cameroonian. Lille's Lucas Chevalier has been linked as a possible replacement. The 23-year-old impressed isn't a word, in League 1 this season, helping his side to a 5th place finish and Europa League qualification. According to La Parisienne, United are interested but face competition from PSG, with Lille expected to demand around 60 million. We ain't paying 60 million, I think, for a goalkeeper. I know we've got money to spend. I know we're PSR compliant. Do I believe we've got 60 million? No, I don't. Even if we sold Andre Onana, I still don't think we're going to go out and spend 60 million quid on a new goalkeeper. Let me know what you think. There seems to be a sort of growing clamour for United to replace Andre Onana. And I think I spoke about this yesterday. I think the more signings we make, or the more signings we're linked with, and the more you get the impression that United are getting our act together and they're actually forming a team that could challenge towards the top end of the table. I'm not saying we're going to win the title or anything like that, but at least be in the conversation for the Champions League places. The more people are looking at it going, what about a goalkeeper then? If you're going to bring in a new striker, if you're going to bring in 2 new number 10s, are you just going to have the same goalkeeper that has a lot of question marks around him? Let me know what you think. You might like Andre Onana. You might think he's the answer. You might think it's just not doable to bring in a new goalkeeper. We did keep or sell yesterday on the Paddock podcast. I don't think Andre Onana will end up going, but he might do. I'm sort of 60-40 end up staying. I mean, you ask me tomorrow, I'll give you a different answer. We were linked with Emi Martinez, and it did feel like there's something in there. I just wonder how many transfers can Manchester United do this summer. Greg says, Oblak or Martinez, you can probably get for 20 million. Murray Boogie says, paying 60 million quid for a keeper is insane. T Mill says, I'm sick of Onana. Matthew Baker says, I'd look at Areola of West Ham. Excellent save percentage and will be cheap with a punt. Yeah, I mean, the scouts should be earning their money, shouldn't they? They should be looking at everyone, basically, having their list and saying, who can we get if we are going to go with a new goalkeeper? I don't know where Ruben Amorim is when it comes to the goalkeeper, because part of me feels like we've got so many other things going on that he's just going, look, I can stick with this goalkeeper. I said it before the Europa League final, though. I said it, if Onana makes a big mess of the Europa League final, maybe that could sway Amorim's thinking, because sometimes one game can change your mindset. I think it happened with Ten Hag and David De Gea for the FA Cup final. Andre Onana, I don't think he was completely to blame for that goal that Spurs scored. Sorry to relive that again, but I don't think he covered himself in glory either. I just don't know if that was enough to make the manager change his mind. I just don't know, to be honest with you. It's hard to know, innit, what's going on. Let's talk about a potential centre-back coming in. This is from Team Talk. I think it's come from reports in Portugal. It says United inquire about 34 million Warrior. Manchester United made a move to sign Evan and Ndicka, according to a report, but Ruben Amorim's side are facing competition from 3 other clubs for the AS Roma central defender. Yeah, we know about all that. We've been through how bad we were. Yeah, keep going. And then I think it says Man United are also said to be after the defender, with a report revealing, oh sorry, it's not, it's come from RMC Sport, which I think is in France, with a report revealing that the Red Devils are among the clubs keen on signing Ndicka from Roma in the summer transfer window, according to RMC Sport. Man United and Tottenham have made inquiries about Ndicka. Are we going to go for a new centre-back? I mean, you could probably have one. We do play 3 centre-backs. We've had injury issues there. It just feels like there's a lot going on here. And at 33.7 million, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but when you're looking at trying to get Gyokeres over the line, when you're looking at trying to get Mbeumo over the line, you're being linked with goalkeepers. Can you throw in a central defender as well? There's even talk that we're still going to bring in a number 8, a midfielder. I don't know. I feel like of all the positions, centre-back is probably the least important in terms of transfers right now, because we've got options there. We've got Aiden Heaven, we've got Harry Maguire, we've got Matthijs de Ligt, we've got Lenny Yoro. When he comes back from injury, we've got Lisandro Martinez. Luke Shaw can play at centre-back as well. I don't think he's going anywhere. You've also got the likes of Fredrickson. Don't know. Nuzer Mazraoui. There's options there. Let's talk about Viktor Osimhen, because where would we be without a Viktor Osimhen story? Viktor Osimhen is dreaming of a move to Manchester United. It says here, this is MUFC scoop. This come from Gazetta and Sport Winters. When was this story from? Sorry? Today. So they're saying he's dreaming of a move to Manchester United. Is it going to happen? No. Wages, the fee, the fact we're being linked quite heavily with Viktor Gyokeres. No, I don't think it is. He might be dreaming of a move to Manchester United, but I don't think Manchester United are dreaming of a move for Viktor Osimhen. He isn't going to Saudi. I think Galatasaray are up for keeping him, but I don't see United coming in. I don't see United making an offer. It feels like it's just gone all cold on that one, unless there's a twist. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat. Kevin Aitchen says, I'm dreaming of a move to Old Trafford. 2. Heaven's Soul says, we can't afford this guy's wages. Steve Out says, I'm as into new signings as you all, but we need a few lads out the door. That is a very good point. We do need to sell some players. We have got a list of players that we can get rid of. We will have an update on that as well, about who's coming in. We've got Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic coming in today for Inside United. So going to be chatting to him about incomings, outgoings, just what is going on, all that good stuff. So make sure, if you're not doing so already, you're subscribing to the channel. There's a link in the chat. It's the pinned link in the chat. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost there, 800,000. So big thank you to all you guys for your support. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.